we have Miesha Tate on air with us, ladies and gentlemen. Miesha, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. Just this news kind of broke out a few hours ago about Juliana Pena. Have you heard about it?
Yes, of course. I knew about it right when it happened. She texted me and I called her. So my heart is definitely, it's just broken for her because it's just horrible, honestly. And I don't know. I mean, I just feel so bad for her. I told her, this sport is a really hard one because just when you think you're on the right path, and you think you got it figured out, and you think you're doing the right thing, it just smacks you right back down. So I can only imagine what she's feeling right now. But I do know that, she's an incredibly strong girl, and if anybody can get through this and keep their mind, set on coming back and coming back stronger, it's definitely Juliana.
And do you think bullying, is that an issue in sports today? You think that's something that needs to be addressed, with the NFL and now obviously with Juliana? You think that's something that guys like Dana White should look into?
Do I think what? What was the?
Do you think bullying in sports is
bullying?
an issue?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's a certain level of bullying in any job or industry that you do, and there's going to be people that try to push you around or try to, whether it's mental or, potentially even physical. I mean, what we do is definitely a physical sport. But, I think as you become an adult and you're not a child anymore, you have to learn to deal with those things and stand up for yourself. And I don't necessarily think it's really anyone else's responsibility. And in that situation with Juliana particularly, I don't believe it was, intentional. I don't think that, he wanted to hurt her in that way. From my understanding, he was probably frustrated that, there's a female in the room that was giving him such a tough go, and that he couldn't just have it, do what he wanted, and she was actually putting up a fight. And so he was going harder than he should have. Rather than using technique, he got frustrated and was using strength and just, trying to overpower her, which that doesn't help anybody, and in this case, that kind of attitude in the situation, led to a devastating injury, so keeping your cool in the practice room is definitely something I always encourage. And, and trying to use technique, especially if you're going with someone that is, maybe not physically as strong as you or as big as you, really focusing on that technique seems to help everybody. So it's just unfortunate in this situation what happened.
Definitely. And, best wishes to her. Recapping your last fight, it's been a month now since your fight with Ronda, and kind of, after looking at, what do you think you could have done differently in the fight? I know that you mentioned you should have gone into that second gear. What do you mean by that?
Well, basically, I don't know how to explain it, but I just felt like I was stuck in first the whole time, like I was hoping to break out of that slower, lower pace, and I just had a lot of trouble doing so. And I mean, my only guess is that I had a big adrenaline dump. It was definitely the biggest stage I've ever been on, the biggest, most important moment. And, I appreciate everyone's support so much, but I did feel like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders because I know that, like, everybody except for Ronda's family wanted me to beat Ronda.
Right.
So it added a lot of pressure because I'm like, it's one thing if I let myself down because, I can just, I can get back up and I can try again, and I'm the only one failing, and I'm the only one who has to pay the consequences of that, and but then when I feel like I have everybody else that I'm letting down, it was a little bit more pressure, and it's just something that I have never dealt with. And, like, fortunately for Ronda, she's competed on, big stages her whole life. She's been doing judo since she was a little girl. And for me, this was a learning experience, and I just think that I couldn't have prepared for that in any other way than just getting out there and doing it. So, now that I have done it, I kind of know what to expect, and I think I'll be a little bit more calm and comfortable the next time around.
Mm-hmm. And, in terms of your coaching staff, I know Brian Caraway, your boyfriend, is your trainer. You think a personal relationship like that is beneficial to you personally as a fighter?
I do, personally. It depends how it works, you know what I mean? And for us, it works well. We've definitely had, to do a lot of trial and error and find things that work well for him during his training camp, things that work well for me. But the thing is that we're always willing to make those adjustments for each other because we truly want what's best for each other. We really want each other to win fights, and we support each other in the best way that we know how. And what's really nice about it is having someone who understands what you're going through, so they can relate and they can be understanding in a way that someone who doesn't, fight and doesn't cut weight and doesn't have those up and down emotions might not recognize or be able to kind of sympathize with you. So it's definitely nice to have someone that I feel like that can relate. And this training camp actually, Brian, he took kind of a big step back in that, he wasn't like the main guy. I mean, he was, but it was more behind the scenes. So him and the coaches would talk, but he wouldn't necessarily be the one yelling instructions to me during, my sparring rounds, because when you do have a close relationship with someone, no matter how you try to balance it, sometimes he can say something and to me it sounds a little bit, pisses me off faster than if, my coach would say it. So, and that there's no way around that really except what we did in this training camp, which was, he was there, he was watching, was still involved. He would tell the other coach kind of what to say or what he was thinking, and they worked together. And so I was hearing a different voice than Brian, and it worked out really nicely, actually.
Okay, and it was no secret during the season of The Ultimate Fighter that Ronda, she didn't want to be there. Would you be open to doing it again? The whole coaching?
I would. I wouldn't want to do it with Ronda. Like, there's no way. Yeah. I mean, but otherwise, I would because I thought it was really cool. And it was interesting, and I definitely learned a lot. And I have a whole new respect for what coaches go through and what that's not an easy job either. I think a lot of people kind of underestimate what the coaches actually do, how they feel, like everything that goes into being a really good coach. And that, I did my best, but I really do admire the top coaches out there and what they do and what they put into their athletes.
Okay. And your next fight will be with Liz Carmouche. You guys were supposed to fight back in July in Seattle. Both of you coming off losses. What does this fight mean in terms of the rankings for both of you guys? You think if you win, you'll be back in the title mix?
That's a good question. I personally don't think I'm one win away from being back in title contention. I think I probably need to win at least two. But you know what? A win over Liz would be a fantastic start because I think both her and I gave Ronda, the best run for her money. And Liz has shown time and time again that she's really a quality fighter. She's a tough girl, and she's been working her way up through the ranks, and she's been taking the tough fights, and and she's liked. People like her. I like her. I think she's a nice person, and so I think it makes of her an interesting matchup and also a marketable fight.
You think she's a tougher opponent than Ronda?
Honestly, I think that Liz is like a grinder, and she's really strong. So she has her strengths in different areas than Ronda does. And Ronda, for me, I think is a difficult style matchup, and also she's a lot bigger. The one thing about Liz is that, she's not as big for the weight class, and I'm not as big for the weight class. So I'm kind of looking forward to not getting in there with like a mammoth.
Right.
But so we're both, I think, a little bit closer in size, and I think that it's just different. She has her strengths in different areas than Ronda.
Right. And some off-topic news. You're a huge Seahawks fan. I saw, through Facebook and Twitter. You're at the NFC Championship game. What are your thoughts about Sunday's game? You expect a blowout victory, a close game? What kind of game do you expect?
Gosh, I think it's going to be close, but obviously I'm really rooting for the Seahawks. We have a incredible defense. So, the good old saying is defense wins games.
Right.
So I think that, we have the odds are in our favor, but definitely not something we want to take lightly, and definitely do not want to fumble in the first play like we did the last game.
Definitely.
So we get off to a good start. I know the Seahawks always pick up momentum as they go, so that's pretty cool, and they always, they play better as the game goes. So if we get off to a good start, I'll be very confident.
Will you be at the game?
I wish. No, I will not be at the game. I wish, but no.
Okay, and do you have any of the players reach out to you, or any MMA fighters in the Pacific Northwest, to train in the offseason? I know cornerback Josh Wilson back in 2010 trained at a local boxing gym in Seattle. So have they reached out to you at all, any of the players?
No, actually, no, I don't think they have. But the Seahawks, whoever runs the Seahawks has definitely, they took care of me. They actually gave me tickets to the last game, so that was really cool. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of the specific players even really know who I am, but I'm a fan either way, so it doesn't matter. They have my support either way.
Is it on your bucket list to raise a 12-man flag one day?
Yes, absolutely. I really would like to do that, and I think it'd be cool because, I'm from Washington, and always been a supporter and a fan of theirs, and they're doing great, so they have my full support.
Right. And one last question, but before I ask you, you are my first guest actually here on WRW, so I appreciate you calling in, and but thank you for your time. I just got to ask about UFC 169 this weekend. Uriah Faber and Renan Barão. How do you think that fight's going to go down?
Uriah has proven that, he's definitely one of the best in the world, and it seems like he beats everybody but the number one guy. So it would be, it'd be cool to see him win this fight. But I just think that Renan is just so fast, and I just think that he's probably going to win it. Like, if I had to pick one, that's what I would pick. But, neither one of them are slouches. They're both really, really tough. So it'll be a fun fight to watch, that's for sure.
Well, Miesha, appreciate the time, and hopefully we can talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.